Hello, boils and ghouls, and everyone creepy in between. This is another episode of the Average Ghost Mom podcast. So, how are we doing today? I really hope that you guys liked last week's episode with the ghost stories. I promise you, my eyes were watering. I promise you, I got goosebumps. And I listened to a lot of ghost stories and I listened to a lot of murder podcasts, and my skin has never crawled, ever. Um, People are like, oh my gosh, people, the hosts while they're reading stories and stuff always get like the creepy, the ooky spooky vibes on their end. And I'm listening and I'm always like, okay, yeah, cool. Okay, next. I've never been told a story that actually like ugh, give me heebie-jeebies. Oh my goodness. Um, so on that note, I wanted to talk about why my mom was down here last week because we recorded that last week while she was here. Um, First, I want to say we took Ava to an eye doctor appointment because she's been having some problems trying to see the screen, like at home, to spell stuff. And she can't see it very well. So, okay, so here's what happened. So, Ava and Josh were in our room, and I was not in our room. I mean, technically, I had just walked into our room, but that's besides the point. Ava was in our room and she was trying to spell funny animal videos on YouTube because we were all gonna just cuddle and chill and just watch funny animal videos. And she was sitting back where our pillows were, and she said she couldn't see the letters, so she had to move to the end of our bed so she could see the letters on the TV screen so she could spell funny animal videos. So that's when I was like, well, I guess it's time for some glasses, I suppose. So I scheduled the appointment, and I forgot her freaking health insurance card, so I had to reschedule the appointment. Finally get in there. And this child, because you do like the pre-testing stuff with the the technician. We do the pre-testing and this child acts like she doesn't know her alphabet. And I'm like, girlfriend, this is the whole, like, I decided to get you a doctor appointment, an eye doctor appointment, because you know your alphabet. Like, if you didn't know your letters yet, I wouldn't have scheduled you something because you need to know your letters. Luckily, they had little pictures, but still. So we get in there. She acts like she don't know her letters, and I'm like, "Oh, child." She's like, "Well, that's okay." The tech is like, "That's okay. Here, we'll do the pictures. We'll flip to the pictures." And it was like a sun and a flower and a fish and an umbrella, and there was a couple other things. And Ava did however she was supposed to have done. So then it's like, "Okay, we're gonna take you back to the," and the doctor's gonna do his test. And the doctor gets back there and is doing his test. And look at the screen, tell me the letter. Let's see how far down you can go. Do you like one or two better? One or two. All right, do you like two or three better? Two or three, the whole shebang. And he says she don't need glasses yet because she can't have glasses yet. She has slight astigmatism, but kids at this age are usually just slightly nearsighted. So but it's not enough to actually put on a prescription lens. Like it's not enough. So but we can't make glasses for just slight astigmatism. It has to be paired with a near or a farsighted. So just come back next year and she'll probably have progressed one way or another by then. And I'm like, okay. And like it's kind of frustrating because Ava can't see the screen. Now, they don't really do, her classroom's not set up like a normal classroom, so it's not an issue with her not seeing the board. Um, like she doesn't really have any problems at school per se, but she can't see the screen. When she's sitting on the couch, sometimes she has to get a little close to the TV. And it's like it's it was a little frustrating to hear that she wasn't getting glasses that day, especially because she was so excited to get this one pair of glasses that she had looked at and picked out. So that was like a tough, like, hey kid, sorry, we're actually not getting these this time. Maybe next year. Maybe next year, if your eyes suck enough, if your eyes make up their mind on if they're nearsighted or farsighted, which she'll probably be nearsighted, I think, because I'm nearsighted. But I don't know. She definitely is going to need the glasses though, because everyone in my family and myself has glasses, and her dad has glasses as well. So I'm pretty sure she's destined to have glasses at a young age. And I got my glasses when I was a second grader, so I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But that was just a little quick update on Ava. So now to the big dealio. I had a surgery 2 weeks ago at this point. A very minor, non-complicated surgery. Um, I haven't said anything about it because I just wanted to make sure that like everything I wanted to make sure I didn't like jinx it or something. But I had a surgery and I figured maybe this episode I would just share about my experience. I've never, okay, I say I've never had a surgery before, but I guess technically I have because I've had my wisdom teeth removed. But there's a difference in going to the doctor's office and them just doing a quick little surgery like that compared to like going to the hospital, filling out all this paperwork, doing the whole workup, changing into a hospital gown, and going back to the OR. Like, there's a difference. This was the first time I have ever had surgery in a hospital. Now I mean like I was familiar with the whole workup and everything because I've given birth, obviously, and all of that kind of goes into it when you're starting contractions and labor and stuff. So that was pretty familiar and that wasn't, the whole shebang wasn't crazy, but it was just a whole new experience for me. And I don't know, I just thought I'd share in case anybody else is having like a surgery and it's like, well what do you expect? Cuz I talked to like a lot of people on the way on my journey with this, and theoretically I was not prepared, but at the same time like some people just think, oh, everyone knows what happens in surgery. Like, you come in, you get ready, you go back, you get it done, and then you go to recovery and then go home, like for an outpatient surgery. Um, but like, I don't know. I don't like you can only be so prepared, and even then sometimes you feel like you're just not going to be prepared enough. And I'm a planner person. I don't like not knowing stuff. So I was a little anxious kind of throughout the whole thing, but let me just tell you. Let's just start back at like square one, okay? I had my first ever abnormal pap smear, okay? I've never had an abnormal pap smear ever, so this was kind of startling for me. Because I got a call. So I went in, had my pap smear, yada yada, whatever. That was like the normal lady doctor appointment that we've had. Everyone has it annually. We all have it. We all know what goes on. I'm not going to explain that part. But the first phone call I ever got about my abnormal pap smear, the nurse calls me. She's like, "Hey, calling with your results from your pap smear." And I'm like, "Okay," thinking it's going to be, "You're all good." And she goes, "Have you ever had an abnormal pap smear before?" And I said, "Oh, um, no. No, I have not. I've always had a normal pap smear." And she goes, "Okay. Well, it's not cancerous." And I'm like, oh, wow, okay, not cancerous. We're starting off strong. At least it's not cancerous. So, what is it then? And so what she said, and this is a very revealing episode. This is a very could be TMI for some listeners, probably the male audience. This is going to be a TMI episode. But this is me vulnerable. I'm being very vulnerable in sharing this. So y'all ladies just listen up. So she said that my results came back and it said that I tested positive for some strand of HPV. She goes, but it's not the cancerous kind, and that's good. And I'm like, wow, okay, what? I've never heard of this. And so she kind of briefly explained it to me while I'm also like Googling it because I'm at home. She called me while I was at work, and I just really quickly Googled it because I have the internet in front of me. And she said that it is one of the most common things that gets passed around, and it's not an STD technically because it can get it transferred from skin to skin. It's just most commonly transferred skin to skin while two people are quote special cuddling as what I've had to coin that phrase as with my child. So it's not anything terrible, and there's a very, very high percentage of the population in the world that has this, whether they know it or not. And I said, oh, okay. She goes, so it's nothing to be scared or embarrassed about. There's a vaccine for it. Um, you're gonna have to come in and do some more testing so we can start going down the path of if you'll need surgery or not. And I'm like, oh, whoa, surgery? What? Huh? She's like, yeah, it's not a major surgery. If you even opt for surgery, let's not talk about that right now though, because we're not there yet. Let's get your next testing day set up. And I'm like, okay. And she said, and it doesn't look like you have the Gardasil shot, so I would advise for you just go start getting that. And I'm like, oh, okay, all right, this is a lot of information, starting with it's not cancerous, but I could maybe need surgery. And that all was kind of just very shocking to me. Um, so that definitely took me a few minutes to, after that phone call, to kind of reground myself. Um, So that was square one, was first getting the diagnosis and being told some startling information. Square two, I went in for my next test. So the test that they do for this to kind of determine where, because it is something that is on a woman's cervix. So it's not up in the uterus. It's just right there in the cervix, on the cervix. And HPV is what can lead when the HPV strand is cancerous, that's what leads to cervix cancer. Okay? And so when I will go in for my test, it's called, well, it's nicknamed, it's unofficial, like uh it's I don't know what else to call it. It's not the official doctor name, but it's commonly referred to as the vinegar test. Oh my goodness. So it was kind of funny because when I went in for my pap smear, I went to a room I had never been in, and I they had this contraption in there, and I was like, "Oh," like asking the nurse and the doctor about it, like, "Well, what's this thing do?" And they're like, "Oh, well, this is a special machine that shines in certain different kinds of lights. We look into your cervix area down below, and we look with different lights to see different things." So then for me to come in like a month later to do the vinegar test, and that's the machine that they had to use, and I'm like, what are the odds? Like, of course I ask about it, and now I need it. So there so I'm down, I'm laying there like how you normally are, and my doctor comes in, and they get the machine down there, and they take a swab. It's not just plain distilled vinegar, I would assume. It's probably some special vinegar, but they have to sanitize the area, and then they have to vinegar the area. And it for me, when I get a pap smear, it's just uncomfortable. It doesn't hurt. It's not painful to me. It's just briefly uncomfortable. Okay, and now we're good. Like once we take the little machine out, the little instrument out. you know, I'm good again, right? And it's just briefly uncomfortable for me. I'm not really in any pain or anything. And when she did the vinegar test, when she swabbed my cervix with vinegar, I was expecting it to burn, and it didn't burn, but it was a little more than a sting. And I was like, ooh, that is super unpleasant. That's really uncomfortable. But I'm not in like a crazy amount of pain, like, holy cow, get it out of me, by any means. It's just like, oh, this is much more noticeably uncomfortable than just a regular pap smear. So they saw what they needed to see. They took pictures and they sent it to a lab and yada yada. And so the next result was, okay, like, we have found the area of your cervix where the spot is. So now you need to come in and have a consultation with an actual, like, doctor, because my doctor, my normal doctor who I go to, she's a nurse practitioner. So she's just not a high enough degree study to be able to talk about surgery. So I made my appointment, and this doctor was a male, and I don't have an issue with male gynecologists. That doesn't, I had a male gynecologist for quite a few years after I had Ava. So I don't care. You did the studying, not me. Just don't F me up, you know? Don't leave me stranded. So, my first appointment with this gynecologist, he is so funny. So, I was originally supposed to have my appointment with a different doctor, but something happened and I got switched to this one. And I was mildly concerned because the staff who had helped me schedule this appointment had said, "Ugh, no, I don't want to schedule you with him. He's an asshole sometimes." And I said, "Oh, okay." So this particular staff member voiced their opinion to me about the doctor not being an awesome doctor, except when I got in and was talking to the doctor. So, okay, initially I went in thinking, okay, like, the worst thing that happens is he mansplains this to me and I walk out feeling like an idiot, but I'm going to ask all the questions I need to ask to have the informed decision. And I thought that I was also going to go, I went in with a state of mind of, I won't need surgery. I'm not going to opt into surgery initially. I think I'm going to wait and see if this gets, if it starts shrinking. Well, I go in, how any doctor appointment goes. They take your vitals, they ask you, oh, are you safe in the home? Are you sad? Are you taking any medications? Have you been feeling any symptoms of COVID? They do the whole workup. And she goes, okay, doctor will be in shortly. So, okay, cool. So I'm sitting there, and he comes clacking down the hallway, and I'm like, what in the hell? And he comes in with these damn cowboy boots on, his scrubs, and some cowboy boots. And I'm like, sir, we're in a city. What? Okay. So that's my first impression, is he's got these goddamn cowboy boots on. So I'm like, all right, what do we got going on here? And he goes, oh, hi, my name is such and such, Dr. Such and such. I'm like, hi. And he goes, okay, so you tell me your understanding of what we're talking about today. And I'm like, okay, I don't know any of the proper medical terms, so please bear with me. And he goes, no, of course. And I said, basically, I've got some germies on my cervix that is not supposed to be there. And you and I are going to talk about the options if I should do surgery or if I should wait and maybe later do surgery. And he goes, germies. Yeah, basically. Okay. So and then he he starts like mansplaining to me. And I'm like, ugh, God. Like, that's one thing I like. Don't use your big medical terms. Clearly, if I just told you, though, if I just use the word germies, don't use big medical terms with me, because I'm not gonna remember it and it's gonna confuse me. And I'm gonna forget later what the hell we were talking about. So he's got this piece of paper with some stuff on it, and he starts drawing the cervix, and then he draws a little spot, and he's like, and so basically, like, on you right here is where you have yada yada yada. And he was giving me all these factual information about how, and he said, oh. He said, that's what we're here for, but I don't know why. And I'm like, what do you mean you don't know why we're here? He goes, because you haven't had the test done showing that you have HPV. And I said, wasn't that what the vinegar test was? He goes, yeah, that is what the vinegar test is, but I don't see it in your chart where you had it done. I said, I promise you, I had it done because I was there for it. I would know. And he goes, and he chuckles. I believe you, but there's no, where's the test results? Where's the notes? Where's the visit notes? There's nothing in your chart. He goes, I skimmed your chart. I skimmed your chart before I came in. He goes, let me just triple check it. So I'm like, okay. And he's scrolling. He opens each document. He goes, nope, that's your demo. Nope, that's this visit. That's this. That's that test. That's that test. No. And he goes, hold on just a second. And he goes, let me go all the way down here. What's this document? Ah, yep. Here it is. Here's your vinegar test results. Labeled under the wrong thing. And I said, and in my head, I said, oh, this is perfect because I work in home health where medical people, people in the medical field and people in the medical clinic are constantly attaching things to charts. And not everybody's on the same page about what kind of document needs to be attached as what kind of attachment. So I am not a stranger to thing attachments in medical charts being under the wrong document name. And so I said, oh, this is perfect. I can like connect with him for a second. I can like be on his level for just a minute. And I told him, I was like, ma'am, I totally get that because I work in home health and these idiots are always attaching things under the wrong name. And it's frustrating because then you say it's not there and they say it's there, but you say it's not. And then they say it's this. And you're like, well, why'd you attach it as that? And it's not the right thing. And he goes, yes, you get it. And I'm like, yeah, I really do. And he goes, and I've told these ladies so many times we need to be attaching things correctly. We need to make sure that test results are under as test results, not just document. And I'm like, I get it, man. But at least it's there and you can look at it and you can know why we're here. And he goes, yes, you're right. So he looks at the document and he goes, okay. Okay, because I had also had mentioned, I said, well, I said, yeah, I did get the vinegar test done. And I remember, and then afterwards I said, yeah, and then the lady on the phone told me that I had it too. And she said that I had the non-cancerous kind, which is when he said, well, I don't know why she said that because the test results aren't there. And I said, well, she must have been looking at my test results because she told me in the utmost confidence, oh, don't worry. She started the phone call with, oh, don't worry, it's not cancerous. And he looked at me and he said, she started the phone call with that? And I said, yeah, which anybody else, I understand that probably wouldn't have been the greatest way to start a phone call like that. But for me, it was kind of okay because I'm in the medical field and also I joke around a lot with things that are really uncomfortable or really bad. And he goes, why? Why? There's no reason to bring up the C word if the C word is not even a part of this. Like, that's just kind of like medical talk 101. If cancer is not involved or a possibility in this case, like how it is for you don't even bring up the word in conversation. And I said, yep, I know. And he goes, oh my God. I said, um, have you seen The Office? I I don't know. I don't know why I suddenly had the 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 guthrie, the gusto, the oomph, I don't know. I had it in me to ask to go way left field but to bring it right back. I said, "Have you ever seen The Office?" He goes, "Yeah, of course I love that show." I said, oh, "Great. Do you remember the scene where Michael hits Meredith with his car and when he goes upstairs to tell the office that she's been hit and he initially starts telling them and making it sound like she didn't make it, but she's totally fine. And then Stanley says, "Now why the hell would you say it like that?" And he starts smiling because he's remembering the scene, and he's like, "Yeah." I said, "That's kind of like what this was when she started the phone call with, 'It's not cancerous.' She like totally Michael Scotted it." And he starts laughing. He goes, "Oh my gosh, she totally Michael Scotted it. You're so right." And I'm like, "Great. He likes The Office? He can mansplain everything to me, and I could never hate this man." If you like and love The Office, that's the same kind of humor that I like and love, and you could do no wrong, you know? You have the same kind of humor that I do. So I said, so that's when my brain flipped a switch, and I'm like, okay, this guy's cool. We're gonna chill with this guy for a little bit, right? And so he's talking a little bit more and explaining some things, and he's going through my options, and basically, so he starts explaining the surgery part because he said, because one of my questions, excuse me, my thought process was that the spot would shrink or could dissipate on its own, and that's not how it works. I would just live with this strand of germies on me, in hopes that it doesn't get bigger. Because there's no getting smaller on its own. There is staying the same and or getting bigger. And he goes, "I would strongly advise that we just nip it in the bud now. Just go in, just have the surgery, get it done, get it over with, so it doesn't become bigger because we there's apparently not enough studies shown about like how rapidly this thing can grow. Of course, everybody's body is different too, so even if there was tons of studies on it, there's no there's no for sure way to know how quickly it would have or wouldn't have grown. So he was pushing and advising for surgery off the bat, just to ensure that it's not going to grow quickly, because for now it's not cancerous doesn't mean that later down the line it can become cancerous. So he goes, that's where I am with this is, you have it, let's just nip it in the bud now. Let's not let's not sit around, let's not wait, let's not, you know, let's not hope that it doesn't grow bigger and get cancers. Let's just delete it now. And I'm like, okay, knowing now that it can't deplete or diminish on its own changes my opinion about what I want to do, and I agree with that now. And so I would like for you to tell me about the surgery. So he tells me so what the surgery is called a LEEP surgery, LEEP surgery. It's like I don't know what it's called. You're just gonna have to search it up if you really care enough. Um, so he takes a stick that's like maybe like 7 to 10 inches long, and on one end of it has a little stick that makes it like a T. And this little stick is maybe half an inch to an inch wide, depending on which one that he uses on you. And so like on the top of the T, from one side to the other is a little electric loop. Okay. And he says, and you're going to be asleep because we definitely don't want you smelling burning skin. That smells terrible. And I said, I bet it does. I've been fortunate enough to not know what burning or rotting skin smells like, but I can imagine it's not a candle smell. He goes, no, definitely not the smell you want in a candle. And I'm like, cool, 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 cool. And he goes, and we go in there, and I just scrape off some of the layers of skin, and then I cauterize it, and then you're good to go. And that's it, basically, in easy layman terms. And I said, okay, wait a minute. So basically, you are electric potato peeling my cervix? And I tell you, this man's face went through like three different emotions in like half a second, and he busted out laughing. He goes, I have done this surgery so many times, and I have been doing this for so many years, and nobody, not even on my staff who has done this with me so many years and so many times, has ever told me that this is basically electric potato peeling a cervix. And he laughs some more and he goes, yes, that is basically exactly what I'm doing, is I am just scraping off a few layers of the skin that have the infection so we can just deplete it. We just get rid of it right there. And then of course I cauterize it to prevent the bleeding. Of course I disinfect the whole area first. And I said, "Wow. Wow. Okay. Interesting." And he goes, "It is, isn't it?" And I said, yeah, kind of a little bit." So, I put electric potato peeling into his vocabulary for what the surgery is. um So we're talking a little bit more about some stuff, and then at the end he goes, "All right, well, do you have any questions for me?" And I'm like, "Yeah. So, I I don't really shave. I don't go bald down there. Am I gonna need to make sure to trim back the jungle before I come in for surgery?" And it took him a second to like comprehend what I was saying, and then it hit him, and he chuckled and he smiled really big and he goes, "No, I'm okay with being an explorer because it doesn't really," as he goes, "as long as I can just push it aside, we're good." And I just have to sit here and think to myself, I'm pretty sure he probably told his wife about me at the dinner table that day. He probably got out of that and told all the nurses about electric potato peeling and saying that, asking if I need to like trim back the forest and whatnot. And oh my goodness. It was a very good conversation. So so that was step what was it? Okay, so I diagnosis is step one. Vinegar test is step two. And then that was step three is the consultation. And it's basically almost like pre-surgery consultation. Well, no, that is the pre-surgery consultation. So usually within 30 days of this talk that I had with him is when people would go and have their surgery. Well, this was the end of the year. And I was talking to my parents and my dad said, "Well, hey, you should probably just wait till the beginning of next year. Get it done at the beginning of next year, and then you'll probably have met your deductible and or out of pocket, and then you don't have to pay for anything for insurance." And I said, "Ah, you're right. I will just push it off a couple months because that makes a lot of sense." And he said, "Yeah." So that's what I did. So instead of scheduling it for sometime at the end of October, I told her, I said, "Hey, schedule it for sometime at the end of January on the last, like on our last Friday. Either the last or second to last Friday." So she wrote the note. She waits a few months and she calls me back. Well, I get a phone call at the end of December, and it's with my new pre surgery appointment, along with my pre-surgery blood work and tests that I have to go in and get done, and then my surgery date. So at the beginning of January, I went back in and I had the same talk with him again. So I go in and I'm sitting in the room, and I've never been in this room before. It's at the very end of a hall. So there's other rooms before my room, and I'm sitting there with the door closed, and I hear like the high heels of a doctor coming down the hall. And I'm thinking, okay, either she's filling in for him today or she's going to a different room. Whatever. She comes in and it's my doctor in his goddamn cowboy boots. And I'm like, oh my God, Jesus. So he comes in, he's looking at the chart, he's looking at me very puzzled. And he's like, whoa, 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 what happened? I thought we already had this talk. And then you didn't get the surgery. What happened? And I said, "Oh, yeah. So I wanted to wait until the new year so I can just have the surgery at the beginning of the new year, and then that would take care of my deductible and out of pocket for health insurance. And then I don't really have to pay anything this year for health insurance." And he goes, "That is so smart. Okay, great thinking. All right, now I don't care anymore. I'm not Pulse anymore. Okay, so we already had this talk, and do you remember everything, or what do I need to go back over? And I said, potato peeling my cervix. He goes, yep, yeah. And he like wagged his finger at me like, yep, that's right. She's the one who said that phrase. He's like, right, right, yep, yep. Electric potato peeling the cervix. Yep. Okay. So you remember that. And I said, yeah, I remember that. And that's about it. And that's kind of the whole shebang. And I had a couple questions for him now that I had a few months to think about things, and now that it had been a few months later from when I first initially got, had the talk and had the vinegar test, and so we had a good little conversation about things that mattered. And then he, at the end, which was only like 5 minutes, he goes, "Ooh, do you want to learn something new that I learned recently in the past month about the surgery or about stuff?" And I'm like, sure, because although although I agree, no person should ever stop. No one should stop learning. I maybe might not be as excited for you to say that you have recently learned something new in pertinence to your field. Now, granted, in saying that, I know the medical field and the industry and the standards and what's being, the science behind everything is always changing, but I don't know. Maybe uh, we'll see. So I'm like, okay, what you got, doctor? And he wheels back, opens one of the drawers, and he pulls out this little it kind of looks like a 3-year-old made a basting brush, like a silicone basting brush. So if you think back, remember I said how the little instrument that he uses to electric potato peel my cervix is like a skinny long T? This is like that, but instead of having the electric metal wire at the end, it has little silicone bristles that would look like a silicone baster. Not a baster. Nope, a baster's the squeezy thing. Hold on. Like when you need to like paint butter on the rolls, or if you need to like uh paint barbecue sauce on your ribs. It's that silicone brush. Okay. So he pulls out a terrible version of that. Okay. And the bristles are all kind of cut into like a point, like a triangle. He takes out one of these and he rolls back over to me. He goes, "You see this?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "This is a special tool that will sometimes be used in pap smears. This is the exact size as the tool that I normally use for the LEEP procedure, with how skinny the thing is and how long the top of the T is." And he goes, "This is about exactly how long of the one that I normally use." And I said, "Oh, well, look at that." And he said, "Yeah, I didn't know they had these." And I said, "Huh." And in that moment, in my head, I said, "I guess maybe he doesn't normally do the pap smears in this office. I guess he must be med- generally only reserved for the surgery patients. He doesn't, that's why he has the whole rest of the medical staff in his office doing all the regular pap smears, and he just does the surgeries. Like he's just the surgery consultist, I guess. He's just he's just the vaginal surgeon. Okay. So I said, "Oh, well that's cool." And he goes, "Yeah, it is, isn't it?" And he goes, "Okay. Well, do you have any other questions?" And I said, "No, I don't think so." And right as he's standing up to walk out, the nurse comes in with some things in her hand. And he goes, "Oh, yes, yes, no. We need to do a quick swab on you really fast because we need to have new test results for the surgery because everything's got to be within the 30 days." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, 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 sure." So I put my stuff back down and I start to reach for my pants because I'm just going to quickly whip my pants off real fast because that's what you got to do. And he goes, "Whoa, whoa, 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 hold on. I have to step out for this part." And I said, "Oh, okay." And he goes, "All right, hold on. Give me just a second." So he steps out. Now, for those who are listening and have never had a pap smear done before, if you've made it this far even, generally, when the nurse steps out to give you time to get undressed, there's like a 5-minute timer that is set. And although 5 minutes seems like a very short time, think about this in terms of playing your video games, okay? If you're lagging for 5 minutes, 5 minutes feels like a very, very long time, okay? It takes me 30 seconds at best to throw my pants down and depending on when I'm getting done, take my shirt off too, because usually at a pap smear, they'll kind of just test your boobs a little bit. Um, Not in this case though. I just need to take my pants off, but usually the nurse steps out for like a whole solid 5 minutes and you're just sitting there on the table with this paper blanket over you, kind of just sitting there waiting for everything to happen. Not in this case, not this time. I took my pants off, I sat on the bed, and I had the paper drape over me, and within like 20 seconds, he just yells, "Are you good in there?" And I'm like, "Yeah, come in." It is funny because like usually when the nurse and doctor are coming in, okay, they'll lightly, gently knock on the door and say, and just kind of crack a little bit, say, "Hey, are you ready? I'm gonna come in." Not this man. He's just, "Are you good in there?" And it's like, "Yeah, doc, you can come in." So he comes in, shuts the door, and I'm looking at this bed, and it's very low to the ground. It is not a normal bed that I've had a few pap smears done here, so I know the beds. And I'm looking at this bed, and this bed is not a normal bed. And I'm like, does this thing even have stirrups? And he goes, does it even have stirrups? He goes, "Kabang, kabang, there we go." And I said, "Oh, okay." He goes, "It even goes up and down." And I said, see, this just doesn't look like a normal bed from the rest of the ones in this office. He goes, "Yeah, we don't use this room often." And I said, "Oh, okay. So this just must be an older bed, an older version." So put my feet in the stirrups, scoot down. He's all up in there, yada yada, does a swab, hands it to the nurse. The nurse puts it in the tube and is out of the room. I mean, I have just gotten sat back up and the drape back over my legs before she is already opening the door and getting the heck out of Dodge. Because he goes, "All right, we'll have these test results to you tomorrow." And I was shocked internally because I know it usually takes like 5 days to get these test results. So the fact that he goes, "I'm going to get them to you tomorrow," kind of makes sense why the nurse was like, "Oh shit, I got to get out of here." So she is out of here. And he's taking off his gloves. He's like, all right, wash my hands here." He goes, "Okay, are we good?" And I say, could I just have some antiseptic wipes, please?" Because part of the process when you get your pap smear done, was that they set everything nice and neat out on the counter. And then off to the side, they always have like 2 or 3 antiseptic wipes and a little panty liner and a couple of napkins or paper towels for you. And there was none of that this time. And so I had to ask him because I don't like opening the doctor drawers and going through them. That's not my thing. And he goes, "Oh, antiseptic wipe." Uh, and there's only 2 drawers to choose from. So he opens the left one, scans it, closes it. Open the right one, scans it, closes it. Opens the left one again, scans it, closes it. Open the right one, scans it. Um, do you need a panty liner? And I said, No. Oh, no, sorry. First he pulls out gauze. He goes, "Gauze?" I said, "No, antiseptic wipe." He puts it back. He goes, "Panty liner?" I said, "No, antiseptic wipe." He goes, and I said, pull the drawer out a little bit further again. At the top right corner, right there. Oh, yes. Here you go. "Well, do you need a panty liner?" And I said, "No." He goes, "Are you sure?" I said, "Yeah, that's not gonna work in my underwear that I have today." He goes, "Oh. Okay, okay, all right. Okay, so now are we good?" I said, "Yes, thank you." He goes, "Okay, all right. I will see you in a couple weeks." So clearly, this man does not go into this room. He clearly does not do the pap smears like normal if he could not even find an antiseptic wipe real quick. He's just so funny. I'm really glad that he was my surgeon. Okay, so now we get to the surgery part. Okay, so the day before, Thursday morning, Ava had a nosebleed at 2 in the morning. It was so she had a nosebleed at 2 in the morning, and I tried to go back to sleep. but I just could not go back to sleep. My mind was turning because there was the ice storm that was coming that weekend. My mom was coming into town that day, and I had surgery the next day. And like, in my head, I know this surgery is not that big of a deal. He told me it was going to be like 20 minutes in the OR, and it's a non complicated surgery. It's just the stigma of the word surgery just had me so busy brained about it. It just had me anxious. But like, I knew everything was going to be fine, nothing was going to be bad. So, Thursday, the alarm goes. I've been awake since 2, and the alarm goes off to get up at 6:30, and I'm like, "Oh my God, and I've been awake this whole time. There is I'm hurt, my head hurts, my body hurts, I'm exhausted. There is no way that I'm going to be able to work today." So I texted, my boss, and I was like, "Hey, like, I've been up since 2. I'm really sorry. I cannot come into work today. I need to sleep." And realistically, I had a couple things I needed to get done before my mom came in too. So I took off Thursday, and then Friday, the day of surgery, we went to bed at a decent normal time. Okay. The day of surgery, I had to be at the hospital at 5:30 for a 7:30 surgery, okay? But I had to take a shower in their disinfectant soap before. So that means I had to wake up at 4:30. However, my brain at 3 o'clock woke me up to go to the bathroom, and then I couldn't go back to sleep. So I had been awake since 3 on the day of my surgery. So been awake since 3. My alarm goes off to get up and get moving at 4:30. So I get up, take my shower, get dressed, and mom and I leave, and we get to the hospital just after 5. And she stays with me until like the check-in opens up because we got there so early before check-in opens up. So it opens up and I go check in. She's like, "Okay, well, cuz she came to also help with Ava because someone needed to take Ava to school. Josh has work. And some people will be like, "Oh my God, your boyfriend didn't take off work to help you?" And it's like, "Look, it's no, because my mom was going to come down cuz she wanted to. So no, he didn't need to take off work." So she goes back, and I'm just sitting there, and they call me back to do some verification. Okay, like your name, date of birth, and some minor paperwork, and then it's my turn at like 5:45, which I wasn't expecting. I have no idea what the pre-surgery process is, so I was expecting to go back at like 6:30 or maybe even 6:45 for a 7:30 surgery. But that's just because I truly had no idea what went into the pre-surgery process. So at like 5:45, I get called back by this a male nurse, and he's like, "Hello, let me just check your wrist, like, because I have some wristbands on, like with my name, date of birth, and my MRN." And he's like, "Okay, you're gonna need to pee in the cup. Just a couple drops is even fine." And I'm like, "Oh shit, okay." So pee in the cup, give it to him, and then we go back to my room, and he's like, "Okay, here's your clothes. Here's what you need to do. You need to dress down to nothing but your socks. Put your clothes on. Here's like some fake underwear for you to wear, and get on the bed, get comfy, and then your nurse will be in shortly to start working you up." And I'm like, "Okay." Get undressed, get dressed in the gown. I'm sitting there on the bed, just chilling. We're fine. Everything's good. And the first nurse comes in. We'll call her, I don't know, Nurse A. And she comes in, and she's this nice, sweet young lady. I think she's younger than I am, which is kind of irritating because in my head I'm still like 22, 23 years old, but I'm actually 27. So there's people who are allowed to be in the medical field who are younger than me, and that should be illegal in itself. But who am I to judge, I suppose? So she comes in and she starts doing the workup, name, date of birth, any drugs, any medications, haven't eaten anything today. Okay, let's go ahead, let's get your IV put in. And it's like an hour before surgery, if not an hour and a half. It's like 6:15ish. And I said, "My IV?" She goes, "Yeah." I said, "This soon?" She goes, "Yeah." And I said, "Ugh, I just was hoping it wasn't going to be this soon because that means I'm going to get really, really cold. Because when I was pregnant and I've had to go to the hospital a couple times for false contractions and then for actually the real deal, when they put the IV in and they put it on, they turn it on, I get super cold because the drip is really cold. And she goes, "Oh, okay. Well, I'll turn it on super duper low, so hopefully you won't be as cold." And I'm like, "Okay, that's cool. Thank you very much." So she goes, "All right, where's the best part to stick you at?" And I'm like, "My elbow, because you can see a ginormous blue vein in my elbow." And she goes, "Oh, your elbow?" And I'm like, yes? Like, what do you mean, my elbow? Like, yeah, my what? What do you? I guess pick your favorite spot." I didn't actually say that, but I was definitely thinking that. And I'm like, yeah, my elbow. I said when I was pregnant, they tried my elbow and then they tried my hand and they couldn't find it. So then they had to go back to my elbow. Um, yes, my elbow. That's where they draw blood from all the time. You can see the blue vein. Look, I'll show you. So she's like, okay, all right, we'll try the elbow. And I'm like, what do you mean we'll try the elbow? You're gonna get it in my elbow. I didn't say that again, but that's what I was thinking. So she puts the tourniquet on, not tight at all. And she's like kind of rubbing on my elbow, trying to like get the vein to pop. And I told her, I said, hey, the tourniquet's not really tight. She doesn't do anything about it. And I'm like, oh, okay. Is this the kind of nurse I'm going to get today? Inexperienced and doesn't want to listen to me when I have good advice on my own health. Okay. So she's doing her thing. She's like, let's try your wrist. Let's try your hand. So she tourniquets my upper arm or my lower arm, not tight at all, and is trying to like rub and to get it. And I'm like, again, the tourniquet's not tight. And she tightens it a little bit, but not enough. She goes, okay, let's go back to your elbow. And I'm like, okay. So I tell her, I said, look, crank that tourniquet hard. And she yanked it. And it pinched just right. And oh, there. Oh, God. Yep. There we go. So she's rubbing, 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 trying to get it to pop. She goes, okay. All right. All right, let's do this. And I'm like, okay. She's like, do you want me to count down? I said, nope, just do it. And I promise you, whatever face I make, you're doing fine. Just get it in and get it done. And she goes, okay. And I'm like, oh, Jesus, fuck this. No, she didn't just say it like that, did she? She puts the needle in. And I'm like, okay, okay, okay. In my head, she's moving it around a little bit. And she's like, okay, I think I got, oh, no, no, I think it's a little bit further. And I'm like, oh my God, you've got to be kidding me. And I'm making all these faces. She goes, oh, do you not like needles? And I'm like, mm hmm, mm hmm. Like, sure, lady, that's the reason why I'm making a collage of faces right now is because I'm scared of needles. Sure, not the fact that you're digging around in my arm for a vein that you're probably already in, but that's fine. So she gets it and she goes, all right. Yeah, I think I got it. Okay. And she tapes it up and I'm like, thank God. And she goes, all right, you can move your arm now. And I'm like, thank you. That was the only bad experience about this whole surgery day. I promise you, everything else was fine. But getting that IV put in, oh my goodness gracious. Heck no. That was terrible. So from there, everything else is fine. she uh she goes, she's finishing the rest of the questions and she goes, all right, do you have any jewelry on? And I said no. Oh, wait, I have my nose ring, but I can't take it out. Like, it's allowed to come out, but I don't know which ball it is, and I physically can't get a good grip on it to take it out. And she goes, oh, do you want me to look at it? And I'm like, they look the same, I promise you. She goes, well, sometimes you can tell the difference. And I'm like, yeah, honey, sure, stare at my nose. Can you tell the difference? And she goes, oh, no, I can't tell. And I'm like, mm-hmm. Crazy. It's almost like I tried to do that before coming in today, but whatever. So she's like, okay, well, we're going to have to tape that. And I said, what do you mean? I'm not getting an MRI done. Why does it matter if I'm wearing jewelry or not? And she goes, because sometimes some patients who have this procedure will will be burnt around where their jewelry is touching. She goes, but I've had a few patients with the permanent jewelry in, and we just tape those and it's been fine. And I said, oh, I guess I didn't I guess I didn't put two and two together that because like it's an electric tool being used on me, that the electric current would travel to my body to the metal. I guess I didn't realize that. She goes, "No, I don't think it's electricity." And in my brain, I gave her the stupidest look ever. I said, "Are you sure? I mean, I'm not an expert in this surgery by any means, but I think it would be electric current, wouldn't it?" Trying to like pose it nicely, but still. And then she thinks about it, she goes, "Oh, I guess maybe it would be an electric current." And I'm like, hmm, okay, all right, okay. Like let's just get on with this stuff. So she tapes up my nose and my nose ring, and then she's like, "Okay, well, the anesthesiologist will be in. Anesthesiologist comes in and he's talking to me about the anesthetic that they'll be using. Anesthetic? Nope, that's not the word. Um, the kind of anesthesia they'll be using on me." And he's like, "Have you ever had anesthesia before?" I said, "Yeah, for my wisdom teeth, and I woke up and I just vomited once and I was good." He goes, "Okay, we're gonna try and prevent you from vomiting. There's some different options." And I said, "Okay, but I have vertigo." And he goes, "Okay, well, we'll do the patch behind your ear then." And I'm like, "Okay." And I said, "Really, I'm just fine. If I just vomit once, then I'm good." And he goes, "Well, let's try to prevent that." And I said, "Okay. But if it happens, I'm fine." And then he's like, "Okay, but let's try to not have that happen." And I'm like, "Okay. Like, good Lord, I'm fine. Just a little vomit. Whatever." So, put the patch on behind my ear. And Nurse A goes, "Oh, I don't know if that's going to stick. We'll see. We'll try. We'll put it on and we'll hope that it stays. And if not, I'll double check you before you're rolled into the OR." And I'm like, "Okay." So then I'm left for a little bit and I'm just chilling, and the tape is kind of scraping up on my nose just right, and it's itching me. It's scratching me, sorry. And I fucked around and I found out I was flipping around with my tape, and then my paper tape fell off, and I said, "Oh shit." And I tried to get it back on and I couldn't, so I had to call for the nurse. So Nurse B comes in, and Nurse B could easily be my mother. I could be the youngest child of this lady. Okay? And Nurse B comes and she's like, "Hey, what's wrong?" And I said, "Oh, Nurse B, I fucked around and found out." And she goes, "What?" I said, "Yeah, I was messing with my nose tape and it fell off. I didn't mean to." She goes, "Oh, well, have you tried just taking the nose ring out?" And in my head, nah, nah, you really? I can just take my nose ring out? Man, I thought this thing stayed in there forever. Nah. So after her, I said, "Yeah, I can't get a good grip on, and I don't know which one it is." She goes, "Oh, my kids have nose rings. Hold on." This Nurse B comes in and she gosh darn takes out my damn nose ring, like she just knows everything. And I said, "Where have you been? Why didn't you check me in?" And she laughed and she goes, "Here," and she puts in a little denture container for me. She goes, "There, put that with your stuff." And I'm like, "Thank you so much, Nurse B. You are awesome." And she goes, "Well, thank you." And as soon as she left, about 5 minutes later, another nurse comes in. So this is Nurse C. So Nurse C comes in and she goes, "Hey, my name is Nurse C, and I'm going to be the one taking you to the operating room, and I'm going to be on your surgery team." And I said, "Oh." I said, "Is it time?" She goes, "It's time." Oh, wait, I forgot. Before Nurse B came in, because I had the tape on, the surgeon came in. The funny surgeon from my other appointments, he comes in and he says, "Hey, how are you?" He said, "Hey." I said, "Oh no." He said, "Hey." He comes in, he's like, "Hey." And I'm like, "Hey, what's up?" He goes, "Clearly you are." And I said, "Yeah, it's not been a good morning. I've been awake since 3." He goes, "Ooh, that sucks." "Well, I got a really good night's sleep." I said, "Well, that's good. I need you to have a good night's sleep. You're the one doing the surgery. After all this, I'm going to go home and sleep for the rest of the day." He goes, "That's good. That's good. Yeah, you're right. I do need a good night's sleep." I said, "Yes, it's very important to me that you have a good night's sleep. I don't care if I had a good night's sleep or not. I'm going to be sleeping." He goes, "All right. Touche." So he goes, Did they work you up good? Are you okay and everything? I said, yeah, yeah, I'm good. I told him, I said, look, I made a decision this morning. He goes, what decision did you make? I said, I was gonna surprise you, and I was gonna stick a little note up my hoo-ha. So when you came in during surgery and you went in, that there'd be a foreign object that you'd have to pull out, and then you'd have to read in the whole OR. Um, but I decided not to because I didn't want to compromise my surgery. But I thought it'd be hilarious because I know it'd have to go on my op notes, and I just thought that'd be really funny. And he starts laughing again. He goes, you are the second person in my whole career to tell me that they were going to put something up their hoo ha for me to find in surgery. He goes, you totally should have. And I said, dang it, I knew I should have. Gosh darn it. I said, yeah, it's going to be a note saying something about like Michael Scotting it or like electric potato peeler, you know? And he starts laughing again. He goes, man, you so should have. And I was like, dang it, I so should have. And he goes, all right, well, here about like 10, 20 minutes or so, they're going to roll you back there. So I'll see you in about 30 minutes, but you won't see me. And I'm like, that's fine. That's cool. So then it was at that time when Nurse B came in with the whole nose ring situation. And then she left. And then, like 5-ish minutes later, Nurse C came in and she said, okay, we're going to take you to the OR. So she grabbed all, she put my bag on the back. I said, wait. Nurse A said she'd come get my glasses because I have a couple things that need to be locked up. She goes, oh, okay, let me go get her real quick. And they got her and I gave them to her and she checked my patch and everything was good. And so we wheeled me back to the OR and her and I was having a nice little conversation. I said, dang, you probably get a great workout in. She goes, I do. It's a good full body workout. I said, because I know these hospital beds have to be not the lightest thing around. And then you put dead weight. Because I'm thinking about, golly, this little lady, she's got to be like, what, 50 pounds soaking wet? And she's pushing around my big ass in the hospital bed. Woo! So they roll me back there and it's cool. So they roll me back there, and I'm just laying on this bed, whatever, chilling, and it's Nurse C, and then three other nurses, and then and a short anesthesiologist, not the one who came in originally, but a different one. And I'm just laying there and I'm just trying to keep my cool because it is starting to set in the stigma of surgery. And I'm back there and I keep looking at the ginormous lights. Like, if you've ever watched any surgery documentary show, whether it's a mockumentary or a drama or whatever, the big lights that they have in surgery where it's just a light bulb and then it's a huge, like, mirror dome around it. There's two of those in this OR, and I just keep looking at them. And I remember like the feeling just starts like just slowly dripping down my body, like this terrible feeling of like you're going into surgery. You're going to be put under and you're going into surgery. And just surgery is scary. And what if something happens? And what if you don't wake up? And what if you die? And it's like that's not, I don't want those thoughts in my head. Like, why? What, brain, why are we doing this right now? This is not a complicated surgery. This is a surgery he's done millions of times before. And I've had perfectly normal swabs. I've not had any crazy swabs before. So I know that my cervix area is not crazy disformed or malfunctioning or something. Like, I'm totally healthy except for this one little teeny tiny spot that he's just gonna go zoop zoop. All right, we're done. You know, like my eyes start to water and the nurses are all, kind of talking their medical talk like, okay, like getting ready. And they look over at me and go, oh, honey, it's okay. It's okay. We have all had this surgery before and, Dr. such and such is such a good doctor and we're going to take good care of you. I promise. And I was like, wow, okay. No, I'm fine. And I told him, I'm like, no, like, I know that I'm fine. It's just the stigma of surgery is starting to like set in. And I know that nothing is going to go wrong in the surgery. But just like the word surgery and the fact that I've had to have a whole workup. Because one thing I didn't share with y'all is that right before, like 2 days before I had my surgery. Pre-surgery called me and said, "Hey, we just want to make sure that you got the packet with everything that you need to know pre, during, and post surgery." I said, "Yeah, I got it." And they said, "Okay." And we were talking a little bit on the phone, but I was talking with pre-surgery, and I had asked some questions, and she said, "This surgery used to be done in office. So it used to be like you would just come in for a regular kind of like OB appointment, and we would just take care of it real quickly, let you sleep off the anesthetic, and then you'd be on your way." And I was like, "Oh, so this surgery used to not be a big old huge hospital surgery. It used to be come in, zoop zoop, cauterize, all right, see ya, you know?" So I think they probably switched it over to a big old major hospital surgery because then they could probably charge more to insurance to get more money, but that's beyond me. Anyways, so like I know this information. It's not anything terrible. Or else they wouldn't, they wouldn't have had it in office for so long. So I'm just like, no, I'm fine, I'm good. So then the anesthesiologist is going over the last details right before she puts me under. She goes, "All right, I gotta ask you some questions. So you gotta share with the class. All right, what's your name?" I said, "My name is Kristana, date of birth, yada yada." And she goes, "Oh, date of birth, thank you. Okay, and who's your surgeon?" And I say, "Dr. such and such, and we're doing a leap surgery." She goes, "Do you work in healthcare?" And I'm like, "No, yeah, I don't work here, but yeah, I work in healthcare." Because I'm giving all these extra answers to the next question that I know she's going to ask. Because everybody before me has asked me all these same, every time a nurse comes in, "What's your name? What's your date of birth?" And then, what surgery are you getting? So, yeah, I know what we're doing, honey. Don't worry. Anyway, so she's like, "All right." And I'm starting to get a little, like, that's when I kind of start crying a little bit because it's like, all right, it's happening. It's setting in. We're getting ready. It's going down. And she's like, "Here, I'll add a little bit of, let's start getting you breathing on the gas because it'll kind of calm your nerves and calm your anxiety, okay?" And I'm like, "Okay." And I remember they put the gas mask on me, on my mouth, and every time I'd exhale, I'd breathe in, and I'd exhale. So that way, like, I could kind of signal to them, I'm still awake. I'm still awake. Like, if I'm making a noise, I'm still awake, you know? And before I knew it, it went black for like 3 seconds, and then I woke up in recovery. And that was like, it was the craziest wake up ever because I woke up and I started crying, and I wasn't sure why. And I had theorized that maybe it's because I went to sleep super anxious and worried and kind of teary eyed. So when I woke up, not really remembering where I was, I started crying because they were like leftover emotions. And my recovery nurse, she was so nice. She was like the nicest nurse I have ever had ever in such a long time. I mean, all the nurses were nice, but she was just so like sympathetic and so caring. And she was like, "Hey, it's okay." A lot of people cry when they wake up, and I'm like, "I'm so sorry. I know I'm okay. I'm not in any pain. I can't stop crying right now, and I don't know why, and I'm really sorry." And she goes, "It's fine. It's okay. A lot of people wake up crying. It's totally normal." She goes, "Here, let me get you some water because I know you probably have cotton mouth right now. You have dry mouth." And I'm like, "Yeah, I do. Thank you so much." So she's holding the cup, and I'm sipping through the straw, and I'm like, "Ugh." And I'm like, starting to calm down now. She goes, "Here, give me just a second." Like, she gotta go run a couple things, whatever. She comes back. She's like, are you comfortable? Do you need more blankets? And I'm like, "No, but can you take the things off my legs, please? Because they're sweating really bad." I had like some compression sleeves on my legs to keep the blood flowing to prevent like clots and stuff. Um, which not that I have that, but that's just kind of mandatory. They just put it on when you're going into surgery. She's like, yeah, yeah, you know. And I'm like, and can you fix my left sock? It's not on my heel all the way. She goes, oh, yes. And I'm like, oh my God. She's just so maternal. Thank you so much. And and I'm like, I I feel like I don't. She's like, how are you feeling? Are you feeling nauseous? Like you're gonna vomit? I'm like, maybe, but I'm starting to feel very dizzy. Like vertigo is thinking it's gonna kick in. And she looks. She goes, oh, yeah, you've got that nausea patch on. It can cause dizziness. I said, okay, can we get that off? Because I don't want to trip my vertigo. She goes, yeah. And I said, just rip it off. And she just rips it off. And I'm like, oh, oh. She goes, I'm sorry. And I said, no, no, it's fine. Nurse A thought that it wasn't going to stay stuck on, so I didn't think it was stuck on very well. She goes, oh, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, no, no, you're fine, it's okay. She goes, I have like 3 other stickers I need to take off of you, off your body. Because they have like the different kind of like heart monitors and stuff and the little stickies with the wires. And I'm like, okay, just just rip them off. Just rip them off. She goes, okay. And she the first one, and I said, oh, hold on, because I didn't know I had a sticker in a certain place. I only knew of the sticker on my shoulder. I didn't know there was a sticker on my rib cage, and I was not bracing for that part of my body to suddenly be ripped off. She's like, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I'm like, no, no, it's fine. I just wasn't expecting one to be there. And she goes, okay, we're gonna do the shoulder one. I'm like, okay. She ripped it off, and I'm like, I what's the term? Golly, I tell these stories all the damn time and I can't remember what the words I want to say. Oh, I got to redeem myself on that one. I didn't make a dang noise. So she got off the sticker wires and stuff and she got me a little bag and then she got my stuff out of the lock closet or whatever and she called my mom and I was still kind of woozy, but I remember this part. She called my mom and she's like, "Hey, she was like, hey, I'm gonna call your mom to let her know that you're waking up and to get ready to come back and get you, cause she's." And I said, "Okay, she's here." And she goes, "Okay." And I said, "When you call her, tell her I say hi." And she kind of giggled, but she was on the phone and I knew she was getting ready to end it. And I said, "Tell her I say hi." And she goes, "Oh," and she says hi. Like, I'm not joking. Tell my mama I say hi, cause I do, and you better tell her. So she gets my stuff, and I'm holding my water, yada yada, and she's wheeling me back to we're in recovery and we're going to discharge, which is the same area that I started in on the workup. So I'm like, okay, like I know where I am now. I'm in one of the rooms, and then I have 2 discharge nurses that come. And I'm like, okay, I want to try and stand up. Like my butt really hurts, my legs hurt. Like I'm ready to like not be in this bed anymore. And so I asked one of the discharge nurses, I said, hey, I need to go pee. Can we shuffle to a bathroom? And she goes, yeah, of course. So she goes, so we get towards it. She goes, okay, the bathroom's just right over there. And I'm like, okay, okay. So we're shuffling, and she goes, okay, you're still kind of on your anesthetic medicate on the anesthesia. So I need to come in with you to make sure you're not gonna fall over and like hit your head and pass out or something. And so I'm like, oh, that's fine. No, that's fine. That's okay. Because I'm still in my gown, so it's not like she's watching me like completely get naked, undressed, and sit on the toilet to go pee. I'm like, yeah, no, that's fine. So we close the door, and I say, I have a 6-year-old daughter. I have not peed alone for the past 6 years. This ain't nothing new to me. And she laughs and she goes, oh, she goes, my oldest is 42 and my youngest is 36. And I look at her with the most amazement because this lady looks like she is in her young 40s. Like she is a low, she's like 40, 41 years old. That's how old this lady looks. I said, "Wow. You look so good for your age cuz I thought you were in your young 40s." She goes she goes, "Oh, thank you so much, Dwight." She goes, I work on my face. I work with my wrinkles. I try to make sure to keep up with my skincare and I keep my hair looking good." Which her hair was dyed and it looks new, looks good new. And I think probably her only wrinkles were just around her eyes from smiling so much. That's what I would have said. She looked so good for her age. And she was so nice in helping me with, sitting on the toilet, getting up from the toilet, and getting back to my room. And then She went and got my mom while the other discharge nurse was going over some things with me. My mom came in and we closed the door. We're talking and doing discharge stuff, and I asked her, I said, "Can I get dressed in front of you? Is that okay?" She goes, "Yeah, of course, I don't care." And I'm like, "Okay," because like, everybody in OBGYN, they have to step out if the patient's getting undressed. And she goes, "Honey, at my age, I have seen it all. And if you're fine with it, I'm fine with it. I do not care." And I said, "Thank you." Because no, I don't care. This is your job. She goes, "Exactly." And I said, "Great." So I took off the gown and I'm getting dressed. Mom's talking to her. I don't remember anything that she said. But this second discharge nurse was funny as heck because I'm like, "All right, I'm ready to go." And the discharge nurse said, "No, you ain't. You need to wait for me to go get a wheelchair." I said, "I can walk." She goes, "No, you can't." I said, "Oh, right. You have to wheel me out of the hospital. I forgot. Because that's how discharges work in America." And she goes, "Mm-hmm. So you're going to sit on this bed, you're going to wait, and your mom's going to go get the car." And I said, "Okay. Yes, ma'am." So she comes around with the wheelchair, get in, got my stuff. She's wheeling me out to the waiting room, waiting for mom to get the car, pull into the little circle by the door. And we're talking, and she goes, how'd your mom get up there to Nebraska? I said, "No, it's the other way around." She goes, "Oh, well, how'd you find yourself in Alabama?" I said, and this is my response like every time at this point now. I said, "Man, for some stupid boy." And she goes, "Oh, I know that. I know that." I said, "Yeah, but now I've got me a nice man now." She goes, "Oh, upgrade." And I said, "Yeah." Now, granted, this lady is definitely my grandmother's age, if not a little older. Just to just to put that out there. And she goes, "My first husband, he died from poisonous mushrooms, and then my second husband, he died from a concussion because he wouldn't eat his poisonous mushrooms." And the both of us are laughing, and she goes, "Can you believe some people believe that?" And I said, "Oh, oh, 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 okay, okay." I didn't believe it, but for a second I did, for a split second. And she's laughing and whatever. But I have to say the whole, and then my mom was there, and then she wheeled me outside, and I got in, came home, and which, for the record, I was able to put my nose ring back in by myself in the car on the way home, and then I passed out for like 3 hours, and it was nice. So, yeah, that was my experience in having a LEAP procedure. And then specifically my personal experience going through a minor surgery at a hospital, at the specific hospital up here. Um, it was fantastic, and all the nurses were so nice and so sweet and helpful. Um, and honestly, I mean, when I took the survey that the hospital sent me, I gave them outstanding reviews. I mean, yes, first nurse couldn't get better at putting in an IV. But in my opinion, the more practice you have, the better, because all these phlebotomists, I have been fortunate enough for all the phlebotomists I've had for the past 2 or 3 years have just been outstanding, and I don't hurt. They stick it in me, they get it done, they pull it out. I don't feel anything hardly. So I've been very lucky to have fantastic phlebotomists. And phlebotomists, all they do is stick people all day long. And if this pre-surgery nurse doesn't stick people all the time, you know, so she just needs more practice. And I'm happy to give my arm to practice for her for this one time. So that's it. That's why my mom was down here. She stayed here for a whole week. And the ice storm came and went. And I feel it was awesome timing for my mom to be down here because she helped me a lot with my daughter, Ava, and just with things around the house. She just was a major, major help. And I can't thank her enough. Thank you, Mom, so, so much. And I love you so much. And it was just perfect timing for everything, how it happened, and for you to be here and to help me with everything. So that's all I've got. That's all I've got today. If any of y'all have any questions, I'm mostly an open book for the most part, as I've just shared my personal experience with surgery. this episode. So if you have any questions, um, you can shoot them over TikTok, Instagram, email me at averageghostmom@gmail.com. Follow me on Facebook, and I guess I'll haunt y'all later.